Get ready for Changing Worldviews with Sharon Hughes, the 30-minute show packed with an hour's worth of information, bringing you familiar guests on important issues such as immigration, education, the Middle East, culture, religion, and the changing worldviews of Americans and the world. You've seen her on Fox News, you've read her on the World Wide Web. Now here's Sharon.
For such a time as this.
Freeing the minds of the brainwashed masses.
Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for tuning in to this edition of Changing Worldviews today. All lives are lost. Family members of those aboard the Malaysia Airlines Flight 370 were told today the grim news that the airliner apparently crashed in the southern Indian Ocean was announced by Malaysia's Prime Minister, according to CNN News. British investigators' conclusion that the plane's flight ended in the southern Indian Ocean was based on new analysis of satellite data. The United States and 6 other Western nations voted to kick Russia out of the G8 in response to Russia's annexation of Crimea, but Russia's foreign minister downplayed the significance of the move, saying that G8 is an informal organization that does not give out any membership cards and, by its definition, cannot remove anyone. And one of the world's leading authorities on genetics says that the human race was born into existence after a chimpanzee mated with a pig. What? I know. According to Dr. Eugene McCarthy, while human beings share a number of characteristics with chimpanzees, there are others that don't correspond with the primates but instead align with pigs. And that's the kind of stuff we're going to be talking about on today's show. I know it's crazy out there. Things are really heating up in Russia while the Middle East peace talks seem to be cooling down. Yet Iran continues to issue threats, and thousands of other newsworthy items are happening every day, such as what I've just enumerated, as well as the new Noah movie that's coming out. And the war on humans in the classroom. My guest today and on Wednesday, Wesley J. Smith, writes, in one advocacy commercial, an elementary school teacher asks how many of her students are willing to commit to the cause. All but 2 raise their hand. She smiles at the 2 dissenters and pushes a big red button. Blam! They explode violently and graphically in this commercial that is shown in classrooms today. Wesley Smith will tell us what that's all about and more as we talk about his new book and film, The War on Humans, Inside and Outside the Classroom. Stay with me. You don't want to miss any of this.
You're listening to Sharon Hughes, coming to you from the Wild Wild West, and we mean wild.
Well, thanks for staying with me, everyone. Okay, I was able to talk with Wesley Smith of the Discovery Institute on his new book and film, The War on Humans, last week. And here's part 1 of that interview. A friend, an expert, a provocative guest, and also someone that's going to be talking to us about an issue that we really care about here at Changing Worldviews. Let me just ask you a question. Are people no better than rocks or maggots and squirrels? Well, there's a growing number of activists and intellectuals who say so. And the consequences, according to my guest, could be a calamity of proportions beyond anything that we can imagine. Well, my guest is Wesley J. Smith, and in his film, War on Humans, argues that the ultimate victims of this anti-human crusade will be the poorest and the most vulnerable among us. And he urges us to defend human dignity before it's too late. Now, Wesley was named by National Journal as one of America's leading experts in the area of bioethics. He's an attorney and a senior fellow of the Discovery Institute Center on Human Exceptionalism and the author of several books such as A Rat is a Pig, is a Dog, is a Boy, The Human Cost of the Animal Rights Movement, The Consumer's Guide to a Brave New World, and Culture of Death, The Assault on Medical Ethics in America. Wesley Smith also writes the popular Human Exceptionalism blog at National Review Online. Wesley, so great to have you back on Changing Worldviews, and I can't wait to hear about your latest efforts here on the War on Humans.
Thanks, Sharon. Good to talk with you again.
Yes. Let's just kind of dive in here. For those that this might be a new subject or one they haven't really looked into, what do you mean by by a war on humans, and can you give us examples?
Yeah, the ebook War on Humans and the documentary that goes with it basically worries that environmentalism, which has brought us so much benefit, cleaning up the air, cleaning up the water, the national parks, protecting endangered species, has moved away from a pro-human, responsible use of the environment approach into a distinctly anti-human misanthropy, nihilism, if you will, which reduces human beings to the enemy of the planet. Let me give you an example. Sir David Attenborough couldn't be more establishment when it comes to environmentalism. He's the fellow who's done all those wonderful wildlife documentaries. He has called human beings, these are his words, a plague on the planet. And he has said that to cure this disease, which is us, we have to have human depopulation. He's also applauded the China one-child policy. Well, the China one-child policy involves forced abortion. Women who've had a child and get pregnant a second time literally drag kicking and screaming into operating rooms to have their fetuses plucked out from their bodies against their will. It has led to infanticide, particularly of girl babies, and other eugenics practices and so forth. This has been applauded not only by Sir David Attenborough, but other mainstream environmentalists, particularly fighters of global warming. Yet, if you take a look at the One China policy, the number of Chinese has not decreased. It has slowed the rate of growth, but it has not decreased. If you're going to have an actual reduction in the number of human beings on the planet, which is what so many people think is required to save the planet, then it's going to take some very nasty policies. Handing out condoms or offering free birth control services isn't going to cut it, particularly when you've seen the incredible authoritarianism of China hasn't done it. It's not going to work anywhere else.
Yes. Wow. Very important. Now, we have talked in the past about so many issues as relevant to your books and so forth. Now, one of the things that I think is important to bring out, and you don't hear a lot of folks talking about it, and that is human exceptionalism. A lot of our listeners are familiar with American exceptionalism. So what do you mean when you're saying that? I don't want to just assume that we get it.
I'm really glad you asked that question, because a lot of times I get asked that, and people are accusing me, people who believe that we are the enemy of the planet. They accuse me of being hubristic and arrogant, thinking that human beings have higher value than other life forms. Well, we do. I do think that, but that's not what human exceptionalism only refers to. Certainly, human exceptionalism refers to the unique dignity of human life, the exceptional value of human life, the sanctity of human life, whatever term you want to use, the equality of all humans among each other. But that is only part of the program. The other side is that we are the only known species in the universe that understands right from wrong. We are the only species in the known universe that has a sense of morality and ethics. We are moral agents. We have a sense of ought, O-U-G-H-T. And so the second part of human exceptionalism is that we have duties. We have duties to each other, certainly. We have duties to our posterity, people who come after us. We have a duty to make the world a better place if we can than that which we found when we came here. The founders of our wonderful country always talked a lot about their posterity, which is us. And look what they left us, because they were thinking about those who would be living here after they had left the scene. So we have duties to our posterity. We have duties to animals, to treat them humanely and properly. We have duties to be respectful of the environment and use responsible practices. And I think we can, sometimes those duties get into some dynamic tension, but in the environmental issue, we have a duty to promote human prosperity. That is required for human thriving. And we have a duty to do that in the context of pursuing responsible environmental practices. Those are not contradictory. Unfortunately, the anti-humanists are pushing an anti-prosperity agenda, which is anti-human because it will lead to less beneficial lives, unhealthier lives, shorter lives, and will keep the destitute of this world mired in their poverty. That's not compassion.
Yes. Well, ladies and gentlemen, we have to take a quick break. When we come back, I want to focus on what are some of the, quote, solutions that environmentalists propose to reduce human population. I know that Wesley's got lots of examples on that. Stay with us. We will be right back.
Sharon Hughes, 1640 KDIA.
Exposing the worldviews behind the political, cultural, and ideological wars being waged in our nation and world, Sharon packs an hour's worth of information into every half hour with news you can use.
We have to pass the bill so that you can find out what is in it.
Things are being put in place that could change the American way of life forever unless we get off the wrong paths and get back on the right ones that are proven, safe, secure, and healthy for our generation and future ones. We're going to be in trouble.
A new world order.
Never waste a good crisis.
A world order that I think all of us would like to see.
The United States does not accept the legitimacy of continued Israeli settlements. It is time for these settlements to stop.
Hamas exists to destroy Israel. Their mission is to kill Israelis, to kill Jews.
However, just because evil men have plans to wipe our freedoms off the map, or Israel off the map, or whatever, in order to rule the world, it doesn't mean that it will happen. At least it doesn't have to happen here in America.
Won't you help reach even more listeners with a financial donation? Go to www.changingworldviews.com, donate page, and give either a one-time contribution or become a monthly partner. Or send your check to Changing Worldviews, P.O. Box 750624, Petaluma, California, 94975-0624.
Thank you for staying with us, ladies and gentlemen. I'm talking with Wesley J. Smith today on his book and film, War on Humans. And isn't it funny? Funny is the wrong word, but I mean, the animal rights movement, and we've talked about, is it Florida that has pigs in their constitution, and your book, A Rat is a Dog is a, there is such an emphasis and compassion and empathy and touchy-feely about animals, and yet not for human beings, because we're the evil ones, right?
Yeah, and in fact, it's even going beyond animal rights, which we have to distinguish from animal welfare. It's moving to nature rights. And I find this very alarming, and this is giving nature, the birds and the bees, the flowers and the trees, rights that are co-equal to those of human beings. Let me read you what nature rights consists of. Nature, where life is reproduced and exists, has the right to exist, persist, maintain, and regenerate its vital cycles. It's almost a right to life for nature. And this is something that has been coming along for the last 10 or 15 years very strong. You don't hear about it much in the media, but it's there. Two nations, Bolivia and Ecuador, have passed the rights of nature into their laws. Now, you might say, Wesley, well, so a couple of South American countries have done something. What does that matter to us? Well, 30 U.S. cities or more have actually created rights of nature in their laws, including Pittsburgh and Santa Monica. I grew up in Los Angeles. I know Santa Monica like the back of my hand. There's no nature left in Santa Monica. So why would the City Council of Santa Monica declare the rights of nature when there's really, except maybe the mackerel under the pier, Santa Monica is completely built up. There's nothing natural about it. The indigenous fauna and flora are quite compromised already because they're making a declaration. They're making a declaration that human life has no greater value than any other life form on the planet. If we are just another animal in the forest, they believe, we'll be gentler on the earth. I suggest otherwise. If we think of ourselves as just another animal, that's how we'll act. That does away with the human duties aspect. And what's really ironic is I'll go to colleges and I'll speak to the youngsters, and they always, when I do that, they come out and they say I'm being arrogant and hubristic, for example, in animal rights, and then I'll turn to them, and after saying 10 times, it doesn't mean we can do whatever we want to animals, I'll say, well, being human isn't what gives us the obligation to treat animals properly. What does? and you hear the silence, and then someone looks like Jackie Gleason in the old Honeymooner show, hamina, 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 hamina. There's nothing to say. Of course it's because we're human. Well, that means we're exceptional, right? Because animals don't have duties to each other. They don't understand the concept. Weeds and redwood trees don't have duties. Of course, they're not sentient. Only humans are told that we have these astonishingly sometimes self-destructive duties by the nature rights crowd and the animal rights crowd. Well, if that doesn't make us exceptional, what does? So they're kind of speaking at odds with each other. But getting back to this nature rights, it's not just some cities like left-wing cities like Santa Monica. Ban Ki-moon, who is the Secretary General of the United Nations, has come out in support of nature rights. That's huge. And it has been proposed for inclusion in the global warming treaty they keep negotiating. Now think about if the rights of nature are included in an international global warming treaty. What the rights of nature does is says that anybody who thinks that nature's rights to persist and exist are being compromised by a human activity has the right to come in and try to stop that activity through lawsuits. It will grind our economy to a halt because you've got a lot of ideologues with a lot of money backing them, the Greenpeace types and others, who would stop any kind of large human enterprise if they could because they want to save the planet. They would stop electrification. They are stopping in our state, California. When was the last time we built a new reservoir? Even though we have droughts periodically, when was the last time we were able to build a new reservoir?
Right.
It's been a long, long time, and half of the Central Valley now is turning to dirt because there's not enough water to water the farms. And imagine if you're living in Africa, what would help Africa more than anything else? I've been to South Africa, which is the richest of the sub-Saharan countries. It's got a lot of prosperity there, but some bone-crunching poverty. It made me heartsick to see the poverty in that country, and it's even worse elsewhere. What would help Africa? A full electric grid all around that continent, helping them build, that would allow them to have water treatment plants and hospitals and various things to build up their economies, to build up their prosperity. Yet we're told by the Greens that, no, we can't do that because that would kill the planet. And that's why you see in the global warming treaty a transfer of proposed trillions of dollars from the developed world that succeeded through pro-human, pro-prosperity, and environmentally responsible methods in obtaining tremendous freedom and wealth to transfer trillions to places like sub-Saharan Africa to keep them from developing their own resources, which, by the way, will keep them mired in dependency and in poverty. That's not humane. It's anti-human, and therefore the war on humans, both in its advocacy, ideas, and its outcomes.
Yes, and I just want to read a couple of quotes here as we go into break, ladies and gentlemen, that put the exclamation point on what Wesley is talking about. Maurice Strong, who was head of the 1992 Earth Summit in Rio de Janeiro, said, "Isn't the only hope for the planet that the industrialized civilizations collapse? Isn't it our responsibility to bring that about? We already have too much economic growth in the United States." And then I want to also read Judy Berry of Earth First, who said, "I think if we don't overthrow capitalism, we don't have a chance of saving the world ecologically. I think it is possible to have an ecological society under socialism. I don't think it's possible under capitalism." We've got so many that are connected at the hip, if you will, both those with economic worldviews, those with environmental views, as Wesley so eloquently pointed out. It all goes together, and they have to diminish the value of human beings, right, Wesley, in order to get their agendas through.
It is, and one of the reasons you see so much global warming hysteria, without getting into the whether or not there is some man-caused global warming, the hysteria that there will be increased murders and rapes because of global warming, that the glaciers will all melt in the Himalayas by 2035, which was proved a lie, and so forth. all of that hysteria is aimed at ginning up the anti-humanism.
Yes. Well, ladies and gentlemen, we have to take a quick break. When we come back, I want to focus on what are some of the, quote, solutions that environmentalists propose to reduce human population. Stay with us. We will be right back. This month at Changing Worldviews is Remember History Month. Those who do not learn from history are doomed to repeat it. While there are various versions of that quote, nonetheless, its sentiment rings true to all lovers of truth. Remembering history, in other words, learning from it, is a key to not repeating it. And all month long, we are going to be pointing to and pointing out history, real history, not the rewritten versions. And to go along with that, our special offer this month, yours for a donation of $25 or more, is a 4-part CD series with 10-time Pulitzer Prize nominee Edwin Black on the War on the Weak and IBM and the Holocaust. It's all about Hitler, Israel, and the United States, a very important part of history that we may think we know, but have we learned everything from that part of history we need to? And are we passing on real history to our kids and our grandkids?
Oh, in fact, Hitler wrote fan mail to the associates of Margaret Sanger of Planned Parenthood, who also was a eugenicist and who wished to eliminate the existence of 2/3 of humanity through her methods. I can tell you that Mia Jamad is attempting to do in 12 minutes what Hitler could not do in 12 years. Virtually all forms of genocide in the last 200 years that I have studied have emanated and been cultivated at the university level.
I'd love to send you this 4-part CD series, War on the Weak and IBM and the Holocaust with Edwin Black, for a donation of $25 or more. Send your check to Changing Worldviews, P.O. Box 750-624, Petaluma, California, 94975-0624. Or you can go to changingworldviews.com, click on the donate button, and the one-time donation for monthly special, changingworldviews.com. Dwayne will give the address again.
Hey, this is Brian Sussman. The whole truth and nothing but the truth. That's what you'll get with Sharon Hughes.
Thank you for staying with us, ladies and gentlemen. I'm talking with Wesley J. Smith today on his book and film, War on Humans. Wesley, I don't know anyone, or I haven't spoken to anyone that has this issue so well covered. I mean, you're not just focusing on one area. You're talking about all the tentacles in this. And I so appreciate that, because you understand and you help bring that understanding to listeners and readers and now viewers in your film, with clarity what the main problem is here. So what are some of the solutions that the environmentalists propose to reduce human population? Because we know that's one of the major agendas going on here as well.
Well, the ironic thing is they want to reduce population, but they, probably smartly, don't propose the solutions that it would take to actually do that. The solutions they talk about are mild things such as handing out condoms or promoting birth control in the developing world and this kind of thing. And without getting into the pluses or minuses of that, even if you did that very, very successfully, as the China one-child policy demonstrated, you're not going to reduce the numbers. In order to actually reduce human population, you would have to engage in near genocidal activities. You have seen in the UK one very well-situated government advisor, not in the government, but an advisor to the UK government, wanting to take money out of health care and put it into promoting more abortion.
Wow.
And of course, the euthanasia issue just kind of sits off at the side and doesn't get specifically addressed. But there's a whole human extinction movement out there that would like to see more people killing themselves, and of course promoting euthanasia, because that would get rid of unproductive kinds of people in this view. But you don't have to have those kinds of specific policies to see how destructive this thinking of moral equivalency between nature, flora and fauna, and humans is. In fact, our own government. Let me tell you that this is a terrible story. There's a town, an isolated fishing village way up in northern Alaska called King Cove, and it's mostly Aleuts, about 1,000 people. And King Cove is, as you know, in Alaska, in order to get from any place to any place, you basically have to fly. But King Cove does not have an all-weather airport. It has a small airfield, but in inclement weather, which is about 200 days a year, you cannot use the King Cove airfield. Now, if they have a healthcare clinic, but they don't have the kind of hospital that is necessary if somebody has a real medical emergency. And if somebody has a real medical emergency, what they need to do is be evacuated to a hospital elsewhere by plane so that they can get the help they need. But half the time, at least, you can't get out of King Cove that way. So King Cove has been begging the federal government, let us build a one-lane gravel road through some wilderness that the federal government controls to another town about 30 miles away, which has an all-weather airport, so that if we have a medical emergency, we can transport that person to the other airport and get them help. And they've pointed out that at least 19 people have died in the last several years because they've been unable to be evacuated. And they even offered to give the federal government 340-some-odd acres, something like that, to make up for the fact you're going to have this one little road cutting through the wilderness, And
wow.
The Secretary of the Interior came to King Cove and said this, I've listened to your stories. Now I have to listen to the animals. And she said no.
What?
She said no. Her name is Sally Jewell. She said no to the people of King Cove. She said that the animals are more important than their sick people, their sick loved ones who need emergency care, even though King Cove offered to give them plenty of acreage to make up for whatever little disruption a one-lane, rarely used gravel road would cause that area. It's just an astonishing thing to me. That's why it's called anti-human.
Well, and so with that, ladies and gentlemen, I want to encourage you to get a hold of Wesley's ebook, War on Humans, and the film. So, Wesley, tell our listeners where the best way to go, place to get it, all that website.
Thank you. Yeah, it's waronhumans.com, waronhumans.com. There they will find a link to the documentary, which is free on YouTube. It's about a half hour. And the ebook is on Kindle, Nook, and Apple, and there are links there. So if people wish to download the book, it's very easy to do. The book's only $1.99. We're not out here trying to make a lot of money. We're just trying to get that information out there. If people want to follow me on Twitter, it's @ForcedExit, @ForcedExit.
Well, there you have it, ladies and gentlemen. Don't miss Wednesday's show as we continue the discussion with Wesley Smith, more on the subject of the war on humans. And now for my closing thoughts. Crazy things going on in our world, and a new NASA study sponsored by the Goddard Space Flight Center is predicting a societal collapse, not unlike the theme of Dr. Paul Ehrlich's discredited warning in his 1960s book, The Population Bomb, that within a decade, they say, civilization would collapse from overpopulation and global famine. Social scientist and pro-life leader Stephen Mosher, who we've had on the show, president of Population Research Institute, sharply criticized both the method and source of this study, saying this should be read not as science but as fiction. Science fiction, to be exact. And so, ladies and gentlemen, we have to be so careful what we read, who we listen to, and that we do our own research to find out what the worldviews are behind policies, agendas, courses in our universities, in our elementary and high school classrooms. All of us need to be watchmen on the wall, and all of us need to remember history as we wind down this month, which our emphasis has been Remember History Month. As you know, remembering history means learning from it so that it's not repeated. And certainly when it comes to the war on humans, no matter how many warm, fuzzy levers and buttons are pushed, the truth is what we need. And the present and even the future come into clearer focus when we remember the realities of history. So don't miss Wednesday's show as we continue the discussion with Wesley Smith more on the subject of the war on humans. And on Friday, my interview with Ray Comfort, author of the other Noah movie that releases the same day as the Hollywood version of Noah. Much controversy around it. What is Hollywood not telling you in their version of Noah? That'll be on Friday's show. And so until I see you next time, this is Sharon Hughes saying it like it is.
Thanks for listening to Changing Worldviews with Sharon Hughes. You can get more information on today's topic or order a CD of today's show by visiting changingworldviews.com or writing us at Changing Worldviews, P.O. Box 750624, Petaluma, California, 94975-0624. You can also contact us at talk@changingworldviews.com. That's talk@changingworldviews.com. Our program is listener-supported, and we appreciate your tax-deductible donations to help us get the truth out on the important issues Sharon addresses on the show. So until next time, remember, stay alert, stay informed. We live in a changing world.